The digestive system functions to break down ingested foods. In doing so, it releases nutrients from those digested foods, and once released, the nutrients are absorbed into the bloodstream and the lymphatic system fluids. The digestive system is divided into two groups of organs. The first are the organs that belong to the alimentary canal, which is also called the gastrointestinal tract. The alimentary canal consists of a continuous muscular tube from the mouth to the pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, and large intestine. Ingested foods are moved through the length of the canal, and as they are moved, they are physically and chemically digested into their component nutrients. These nutrients are then absorbed by the capillaries and the lymphatic vessels that are found within the walls of the alimentary canal, and any undigestible food residues and wastes are eliminated as feces. The accessory digestive organs aid in the breakdown or the processing of food and nutrients. However, the ingested food does not pass through the accessory organs. These organs and structures consist of the teeth, the tongue, the salivary glands, the gallbladder, the liver, and the pancreas. Figure 23.2 highlights the structures of the alimentary canal, beginning at the mouth and moving to the pharynx, then to the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestine, and the large intestine. These highlighted structures represent some of the major accessory digestive organs, starting with the tongue and the salivary glands that are found within the oral cavity, and then moving on to the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas. The alimentary canal is composed of 4 basic tissue layers, and we will refer to figure 23.3 when examining these structures. The deepest of the alimentary canal layers is called the mucosa. It consists of an epithelium, a lamina propria, and a smooth muscle layer called the muscularis mucosae. The epithelium is in direct contact with ingested food as it lines and surrounds the lumen of the alimentary canal, with the lumen being the space that the ingested food is passing through. Now, within the mouth, the pharynx, and the esophagus, the epithelium that composes the epithelial layer is a stratified squamous epithelium, which is too thick to function in nutrient absorption, and therefore it functions to protect against the abrasion from the food that is passing over it. This also makes sense because ingested foods that are leaving the mouth, the pharynx, and the esophagus have not yet had time to be chemically digested and broken down into their component nutrients. In the stomach, the small intestine, and the large intestine, the epithelium is a simple columnar epithelium, which functions in the absorption of nutrients and water. The lamina propria connects the epithelium to deeper layers, and it also contains dense capillary networks that function in absorption of nutrients and water. The muscularis mucosae is a thin layer of smooth muscle that produces local movements and folding of the mucosa epithelium in order to increase its surface area for absorption. In diagram 23.3, the lumen is surrounded by the epithelium of the mucosa, and deep to that epithelium is the lamina propria, followed by the muscularis mucosae. The submucosa consists of connective tissue that functions to bind the mucosa to the muscularis layer. The submucosa contains blood vessels and capillaries that absorb ingested nutrients and water into the bloodstream in order to carry it away from the alimentary canal. Returning to figure 23.3, we find the submucosa in between the mucosa and the muscularis layers. The muscularis, which is also called the muscularis externa, is a region that is typically composed of 2 layers of smooth muscle. The first is an inner circular layer, and the second is an outer longitudinal layer. Contraction of these layers promotes a mechanical breakup of the food that is passing through the lumen of the alimentary canal, and it also moves food down the length of the canal. Within the mouth, the pharynx, and the anal canal, the muscularis is composed of skeletal muscle, and it allows for voluntary control over movement of materials through these regions, and promotes acts such as swallowing within the mouth and the pharynx, and the act of defecation through the anal canal. In most of the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestine, and the large intestine, the muscularis is composed of smooth muscle. Within the stomach, there's a third layer to the muscularis, which is called the oblique layer. One of the functions of the stomach is to pulverize food into a paste-like material before that food enters the small intestine. Figure 23.3 shows only the basic layout of the alimentary canal, so we see only the circular layer and the longitudinal layers here. The final layer of the alimentary canal wall is called the serosa. It is only present around the alimentary canal structures that are found within the abdominal cavity. There it anchors the alimentary canal to nearby structures, and it also provides attachment for blood vessels and nerves. It is continuous with a membrane that is called the mesentery. The mouth, the pharynx, and the esophagus do not possess a serosa. Instead, they are anchored to nearby structures by a collagen connective tissue layer that's called the adventitia. The serosa possesses an areolar connective tissue layer and an external epithelium. The areolar connective tissue aids in binding it to the muscularis, which is just deep to it, while the epithelium of the serosa is continuous with a membrane-like sheet that is called the mesentery.